Okay, great. Welcome everybody to Southern Nevada Regional Housing Authority. This is our Google Hangouts on Air class, and it's being taped, recorded, and I will send you links so you can go back and watch it. Why? Why would I do that? Correct. Okay, good one-word answer. So you can remember information, because if you don't remember, what's that like? If you learn something you don't remember, what's that like? It's like not learning it, right? So most of the issues we have is we just don't remember. We don't remember what we learned. Why don't we remember it? Okay, that's one thing. Why else don't we remember stuff? Okay. Okay, but let's say today, the things I say today, why don't we remember? Why are you not going to remember what I say? Okay, well, so let's start with, if you don't take notes, right? Now you have to go by what? Memory. Now what if you're not paying attention? Okay, and you know the problem with most people here, everywhere in Las Vegas and in the world, the problem with most people is our minds wander. Do you drive? Okay, neither of you drive. Okay, so have you ever driven?
I've driven.
Have you been in a car with people? Yeah, of course. Have you been having conversations with them while they're driving? Do you notice that they're not really focused on driving, that they're able to drive and talk to you? Yeah, because when you learn to drive, you can do it automatically, right? But if you say to somebody, hey, what color car did you just pass? They're talking to you in the car, and they just pass a car. And you just do a little experiment. Say, well, do you remember the color of the car you just passed? What do you think they're going to say? No. Why not? They weren't paying attention. Okay? So it's hard to remember stuff if you're not paying attention, because there's nothing to remember. It's just not there. That red car that you just passed, and because you passed them, that means you had to be aware of them, right? Oh, there's a slow car in front of me. I'm going to pass it. You pass it, and you don't remember what the color of the car was. Not important. You don't need to remember it. But we get into a habit of not remembering most of this stuff. And that's part of how our brains are designed, not to be like a tape recorder or a movie camera. We take in a lot of stuff, and most of the stuff we don't remember. But we get in the habit of not remembering stuff we're supposed to remember. Okay, because we just get into this routine of, I don't remember stuff, it's not blah, 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 whatever. And so the number one thing is, we don't pay attention. And when you get to work, what do you think the difference between a good employee and a not good employee is? Huh? Well, not really. You know, they don't say we hire people that pay attention. Okay, they expect you to pay attention. But that's not the fundamental difference. Okay, so one thing to write down, you know, so this is going to go to jobs. There's two things employers care about. Okay, there's two things employers care about. Fundamentally, there's only two things that employers care about. Now, when I say this, what I want to be very clear, when I say employers, I mean for-profit businesses. I don't mean churches, I don't mean places like this, I don't mean government. I'm talking about places where people own them and they're in business. We're not there to help people. So I'm not saying anything bad about churches and government and places like this. It's just, I'm not talking about those. So employers care about two things. What are they? What's one? There's only two. So what's one of them? Do you think it's important to know that if you want to get a job? Like, huh?
Doing the job on time.
No. They expect you to do that. Huh? Okay. So this is sort of off topic, but when I was at Santa Clara, my class in statistics, the thing was that everything fits in a, what's this called?
Curve.
What kind of curve?
Learning curve.
Huh?
Learning curve.
No. What kind of curve is this? Okay, this is a bell curve. So, Patelia. Leah? Okay, Leah. So why is this called a bell curve? Would you guess, just off the top of your head? Shaped like a bell. That's exactly right. That's why it's called a bell curve. Everything fits into a bell curve. So what was the answer you just gave me, Devin? No. What was the answer you gave me as to what's one of the two things employers care about?
Doing the job.
Okay. So that would be a data point right there. Okay. So on a bell curve, you have some, if I say people singing, okay? Some people are really bad, right? Some people are really what? What's the opposite? Really good. And most people are what? Yeah, they're in the middle, okay? So the answer you gave isn't really a bad answer. It's not a great answer. It's on the bell curve. So Leah, so what's another reason? There's two reasons employers hire people. What's one? No, just come and give me an idea. See, one that most people don't know this. Okay, so that's about over here. Okay, bing, that's one of them. Employers care about two things: making money and what? Sort of like that, huh?
Keeping the business.
Saving money. Okay. Employers care about two things: make money, and two is save money. That's it. If you go into an interview and they say, "Why should we hire you?" Say you went into an interview today. You were interviewing with me. We're doing a mock interview. Devin, why should I hire you? Well, good guess. Okay. If we didn't go through this, what would you say?
I'm a really good employee.
Okay. So that's over here because everybody says that. What else? Why should we hire you? What's a business where you want to work?
Let's just say construction.
Okay. Okay. Construction. Okay. So I have a construction company. Why should I hire you?
Have strong endurance.
Okay. You might be a moron, but you're going to keep doing all day long. You're going to keep doing it wrong all day. I turn my back. You're going to keep doing it. It's going to be wrong. Okay. So endurance, if you're doing it right, that's good. Okay. But I don't know, but it could be very bad, right?
You could say
I send you out to go shovel something. I only wanted you to do that, but you did the whole place. Now we got to go reshovel it back because you have a lot of endurance. Okay, so that could be good. Okay, what would you say? Why should we hire you?
If I was working in the healthcare field, I would make sure I know, let the person know that I'll do everything in my power to make sure the doctor only has to care about patient care.
That's what you would say?
Something like that.
Okay. I want to make sure the doctor only has to care about patient care. So,
Everything will be done.
okay, that's a long way to say something, like I'm prepared or I'm efficient or whatever. Okay. So these are reasons that everybody else gives. So if you give the same reason everyone else gives, what are they going to do? They're not going to remember it. Okay, they just passed it. There's a car on the freeway in front. They just passed it. Okay, I don't remember that because everybody says the same thing. You want them to remember you, right? Okay. So the thing to take home and not leave home without it, when you go into a job interview and you get any question like, why should we hire you? You want to say, because I'm going to make you more money than anyone else. Like that, like you believe it. Not like, because I'm going to make you more money than anyone else. Okay? You don't say it like that. Because that makes it sound like you're what?
Unsure.
You're unsure and you're guessing, and you're throwing out to them, I think this is the answer you're looking for, but I don't really know. But if you say it with conviction, because I'm going to make you more money than anyone else, what might they do? Believe you, right? If they believe you, then they'll hire you. So the important thing in an interview is you have to be believable. Because ultimately, I'm getting ahead of myself, but ultimately, they're trying to figure out, are you the person on this resume? Because I like this resume. This is who I'm interviewing. I need to find out if this is you or if somebody else wrote it for you, or if you lied. So what might I need to do?
Give you some good questions.
Might have to trick you, right? Because if I just say, did you write this, and you're a liar, what are you going to say?
Oh, something that's not so like to your grasp. Something that
If you're a liar and I ask you a question, you might lie.
Right.
Right? Okay, so I can't find out if you're a liar by asking you a question that you might lie to. So I might have to trick you. I might have to ask you a question that if you were a liar, you would answer it a different way than if you weren't a liar. Okay, so that's fundamentally, if you go work at a good company and there's an HR person, if their job is to hire people, they're trying to figure out, is this you? And they can't just say, hey, is this you? Like they can't say, for example, did you write this? Because what if you're a liar? What are you going to say? Yeah. Huh? Exactly. Now, let's continue that. So let's say, okay, what's the job that you've had? Okay, call center job. So let's say this is your resume. Leah, this is your resume. And I say, oh, okay, Leah, you've had a call center job. Tell me about this call center job. Yeah, we're just role playing.
Okay.
Tell me about this call center job.
At this call center, I help patients receive their medications through mail with lower prices than the pharmacy.
Okay, wait, that's not what this says right here.
Just repeat the exact words on the resume.
I'm trying to figure out if you wrote it.
Well, yeah, I wrote
Okay.
it.
If you didn't write it, and most people don't write their resumes, say, if you didn't write it, and I say that's not what this says right here, what are you going to do? What is your initial reaction going to be? Huh? Huh? Yeah, you're going to go like, huh? Deer in headlights, uh-oh, busted.
Yeah.
What do I say now?
It's not you. You tell me it's not me.
No, I just said this isn't what your resume says. I'm testing you. I got to find out whether you wrote this resume. I can't say, did you write this resume? Because if you're a liar, you're going to say what? Yeah. But if I test you and I just say, it might exactly say what you said, but I'm going to say that's not what it says right here. If you didn't write it, what are you going to say? Or how are you going to react?
You're gonna deer in headlights, right?
Yeah. Uh-oh. Maybe it doesn't say that.
They expect you to say the exact words on it. What if I said the gist of it? Like, what if on my resume
It doesn't. He doesn't care what it says. You could repeat exactly what it says.
Okay.
He just wants to test you by saying that's not what it says to see how you're going to react. Because if you're a liar, if you didn't write this, how are you going to act? Uncertain, right? Well, maybe it says something different. Now let's say you did write it. How are you going to act?
You want me to prove it?
No, you wouldn't say what I want to prove it. You'd say, are you sure? Okay, you question me. Well, I'm not giving you, I'm not saying here's how you get away with cheating on your resume. That's not the point. The point is they're trying to test you to see if this is you. Because I like this, but I don't know if this is you. And if I ask you if it's you and you're lying, if you're a liar and I ask you, you're not going to tell me the truth. So I can't just say, did you write this? Even though I might say, did you write it? But I might have to go to more clever, devious things to do because my job is to find out if this is you. That's my job. If I make a mistake and hire you and this wasn't you, who gets blamed? You or me? Huh? Yeah, I get blamed. I'm not going to go down because you tricked me. So if you say, yeah, I wrote my, and I might say, oh, cool, good resume, cool, did you write this? I might just be trying to figure out, are you a truthful person or not? Might have nothing to do with whether you wrote it. I just want to see, are you a person that I'm going to have to get really sneaky and devious with? Is this spy versus spy, or are you going to tell me what's going on? Now, but just to go back and close the loop, never, ever, ever start a relationship off on a lie. No relationship. Don't start, and work is a relationship, right? You don't want to start a relationship out on a lie. You don't want to start dating out on a lie. You don't want to start any relationship out on a lie. So you need to be truthful. So if they say, if you didn't write your resume, what are you already doing? Yeah, because you're saying this is me, but it's not really me. You're leading them to believe it's you. It's not a good policy. So you should always write your resume and you should know exactly what it says. So then when they say, that's not what it says right here, what do you say? Yeah, you act like, really? Because I think it does. And in their brain, what are they going to think?
Oh, yeah,
He wrote it. Okay? And they're going to move on. Now, just to give you an idea of sneaky, you know Zappos? Have you heard of Zappos?
Yeah, I see the signs.
Huh?
I see the signs.
Okay, what does Zappos do? They sell shoes on the internet. And they're headquartered here. And they were bought by Amazon for $1 billion. And the guy who's the president of Zappos spent $350 million buying property in downtown Las Vegas and things in school, and he's supporting the school where I work. Here's what they do to find out if people read. They want to hire you for a good job. They fly you in. They pick you up at the airport in the van. They bring you in, they give you a tour. Then you spend about 4 hours in meetings. Different people. They want to wear you down. And then at the end, they say, okay, well, the van's downstairs. They're going to take you to the airport. And, thank you. We'll get back to you. Okay? How do you feel if you're that person?
Rejected.
Well, you might feel really good because it might have been a good day, but you're going to be tired because their thing is to wear you down. And they drop you off at the airport. And then the bus driver, the van driver comes back and they're all waiting for him. And what do you think they say to the guy in the van that drove the van?
What?
Huh? What do you think they say to the guy in the van? The driver. What does Zappos say when the guy comes back driving the van? He said, go take him to the airport and then come back in here. When you drop him off, come back. So what do they say to him when he comes back?
Whether or not you got the job.
What do they say to the driver?
Oh, the driver. Asking questions or something.
They say, what was the guy like on the way back?
Oh, yeah.
How did he act on the way back? Because we know when he was here, he was on his best behavior. When he's in the van riding with you, who does he think you are? Yeah, what's he really like? Because we just beat the crap out of him all day long. He's mentally tired. We gave him this big send-off. What was he like in the van? Was he polite? Was he rude? Was he, and the driver's a chatty guy because he's trying to,
That's his job.
his job is to go back and report on the interview because they're trying to find out, is this really you in the interview or were you pretending that you're a good person because you want us to hire you? Right? Because employers are only interested in two things: making money and saving money. They're not interested in hiring people who say, because I really want a job. Okay, why should we hire you? Because I really want a job. That doesn't work. Okay, here's another one. You applying for jobs right now? Or how many?
I just finished my medical assistant program, so I've put in over 50 applications.
50? Okay, good. Cool. What kind of places?
Southwest Medical, Virgin Cares,
Cool.
LabCorp.
Wow, cool. You're really putting a lot of effort into finding a job. Okay, why's that?
I want a job. I don't like not working. I like time to prove it.
Okay, now, what do you think I think? Do you think I think that's good? Why not?
You know, somebody who wants to make a career, wants to stay.
Okay.
Make money and save.
So this is a trick. I'm letting you think you're giving me the right answers, but you're really doing this. You really are doing this. You're digging a hole to jump in. Huh? Well, but remember, you got to be honest. Honesty. Always start relationships off with, don't start relationship on what? Huh?
Then no one's gonna hire me. They know I've been applying everywhere.
That's why you don't want to be applying everywhere.
It's a job.
That's not how you get a job. That's not really how you do it. Okay? That's not really how you do it, because what do employers want?
Somebody
Building their company.
No. What do employers want?
make money and save money.
Okay. Now, who do they think are going to do that for them? People who want to work for them. So when you tell me you've applied to 50 places, I'm saying one of two things. She doesn't care about us. Okay? She doesn't care about us. Or why did 49 other people say no? She's not that good. Right? That's what I'm thinking. Because what's my fundamental job? To figure out whether you should work here. That's what I get paid to do. And the fact that you sent out 50 resumes, it's either you got a problem or all other employers, it's the same thing. We want people who are going to make us money. You're only here looking for a job for yourself. Get it? Think if you're the employer, are you going to want somebody who says, well, I'm trying to get a job. I really, really want a job. Hire me. I've got 50 resumes out there. I'll work anywhere. Would you hire somebody like that if you had pride in your company, you built it up from scratch? No. Right. So these are things that you don't learn, and the good news is nobody out there knows it. Everybody's doing the same thing you're doing. So who has an advantage if you do something different? Okay, what's the definition of insanity?
I know this. Outside of the social norm, to accept social norm.
Okay. So what most people say, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. You heard that? Okay. That's the pop culture definition. So part of my education is I have a law degree. In law school, in the legal world, insanity is you didn't know what was wrong. You say, I killed the guy because the devil, Jesus told me to kill him. Moses was in my room last night, and he said, that person's the devil, go kill him. I wasn't doing anything wrong. How come? If Jesus came and told you to kill somebody, would you do it?
It was really him.
Yeah. Yeah. If it really was Jesus. You're going to say no to the Son of God? No, you'd say yeah, right? That's insanity. Okay? You did not know that what you were doing was wrong. But it's insane. Okay? But the pop culture definition is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So the good news for you guys, the good news is that's what everybody else is doing. They're sending out 50 resumes a week, they're going in and they're saying things, and the employer is saying, next. So if you do something different and you do it the right way, what should happen? Yeah, you have a better chance. The bottom line is this, though. If they don't believe you, you're not going to get hired. Even if you're the best person. Even if you're going to make them more money. Even if you're going to make more money than the next person. Because if they don't believe you, they don't know what could go wrong. And so, if you could make them a lot more money, but maybe not, I don't really know. This person here, I think you might have more talent than this guy, but you know what? I believe this guy. You're just you got too many answers for everything for me. So I'm going to go with this guy because I get evaluated on my thing. And if I hired you and you only last a month, who gets blamed? Me. So I'm going to go with this guy because I believe him. Even though you could be better. Now, so I work for a school called Larson Training Centers, which is a post-secondary school. And it happens to have the highest placement rate of any school in the state of Nevada, 2 years in a row. And we've only been in Nevada for 2 years. We haven't been here 3 years. We've been in California since 1989, so 27 years. We've only been here 2 years. We have the highest placement rate in the state of Nevada. And a lot of it is because of our curriculum and because of stuff that I'm telling you right now, that we don't tell people the same stuff that other people tell them. It's all right. No, I know it's hard. So that's what I do, and we teach people skills. And the interesting thing about our school is our students are in prison, or they live at Catholic Charities, or Shade Tree, or Salvation Army, or places like that, or they're homeless veterans, or they're whatever. So we don't start with the best students. We start with people that have about a 5% chance of getting stable and meaningful employment, and we have an 85% placement rate. And the reason it's 85% is because some people that are in prison can't break drug habit. They think they can, but when they get in a situation where they're tempted, they'll go back to meth or heroin, something like that. And they can't help it. They're just not equipped. And we don't, we don't do that. We teach people employment skills. We teach people how to use the cloud. So, so the significant part about that is what I'm telling you is important stuff. And I wouldn't be here unless the people here knew this was true. And so when I send you the email, you'll be able to go on YouTube and watch all other videos that I've done here or at Larson. And there's about 600 YouTube videos that we've done, or videos with Nolan Bushnell. So that's what I do, my job during the day. We have a campus inside of the prison here, and we're going to be opening a campus inside of the jail in downtown Las Vegas. And we don't turn anybody away. So,
Even if you're not in jail?
yeah, but here's why I bring up jail. If we can have an 85% placement rate and our students are in jail or live in homeless shelters, everyone else is easier, right? Not like we're starting with the valedictorian from Bishop Gorman High School and saying, hey, 85% of the valedictorians, we got jobs for. We're starting with people like this. And I don't want to take a lot of credit for the school. We have a good curriculum. But really, it's because the students are motivated. And if you're 40 years old and you got out of prison and you spent half your life in prison on the installment plan, you start thinking things like, you know what, when I was younger, I didn't think this is what my life was going to be like, and I don't really want to die in prison. But I don't have any skills. And you know what? There is no other school that teaches adults important skills. Everybody had their chance in high school. You think that UNLV is an opportunity, but it's not.
Right.
Okay, because they don't teach relevant stuff. And only 39% of people graduate from UNLV after 6 years.
Debt.
And $100,000 in debt. Okay? Only if you take out teachers and engineers, people that were in STEM, only 10% of the population ends up working in a job that their diploma is. Okay, but
Are
we are.
certifications worth more? Are certifications worth more than those degrees?
Well, we have been raised to drink the Kool-Aid that you need to go to college. And people who went to college, so I have an undergraduate degree from Santa Clara, good university, and I have a law degree. Very few people in Las Vegas have a graduate degree. Out of 2 million people, there might be 10,000. There might be 1,000 people. It's really not good. But but everybody who works in a high school, do you think they all have college degrees? Teachers in high school? Yeah. Who doesn't that works in high school?
Maybe minimum workers.
Janitors, kitchen workers, yeah. The low-level people don't. So everybody's been raised to drink the Kool-Aid. You need to get a college degree. And when I was going to college, that was pretty much true. But now it takes too long and it's way too expensive. It's another form of indentured servitude, which is what?
Slavery.
Well, it's like slavery. What was indentured servitude? Do you know? Do you remember that?
It's very
High school?
low paid. There's work for just to eat.
Okay, so indentured servitude was you were in Europe, you had a skill, you wanted to come to America, but you didn't have any money. So somebody would say, okay, I'll pay for you to come here, but you have to work for me for free for 5 years. Or work for 5 years, or 10 years, or whatever, some number of years. You have to do that. That's called indentured servitude. You could not quit. And usually, oftentimes, those people would end up working for somebody who was not nice. Because what? You couldn't what?
The contract couldn't leave.
Yeah, you couldn't quit. And back there, they had debtors' prisons. So it would be, okay, well, you want to quit, you owe the guy $1,000. So you either go to prison or you pay the $1,000. Well, you don't have $1,000, then you go to prison. And you still owe the money. So college now is another form of indentured servitude for most people. And you know, the new statistics about UNLV, 39% graduate after 6 years. And you know the reason they stop? Because the statistic doesn't get better. It's not like 70% graduate after 8 years. It just keeps, it's like 39%. They should just say 39% of people graduate from UNLV, whether it's 6 years or 6 million years. And if you go part-time, you're less likely to finish. And another problem about UNLV is it is a commuter school. What's that?
You have to take like a bus there.
Well, you don't live on campus. You don't live in a dorm. You live at home. You live in an apartment somewhere.
That's the reason why.
Okay. So the system is set up for people to fail. Now, because of that, I got recruited by this guy named Nolan Bushnell. Who's that?
Some rich guy?
No, well, he's rich, but not. Okay, so have you ever heard of a place called Chuck E. Cheese?
Yeah.
Okay, what is it?
And you made that game thing?
Game thing?
Yeah.
Okay, Atari. So he's the guy who started Chuck E. Cheese, and he also is the guy who founded Atari and 25 other companies. I've known Nolan for 20 years and worked with him for some number of years. at the same company. And for the last 3 years, our school has used software called BrainRush that he's the founder of a company called BrainRush that has learning software, reading, writing, arithmetic. And it helps our students at Larson learn because it's like 7 to 10 times faster learning using BrainRush. So he has that. So he said, you know, Ed, I'm going to start this thing because college, too many people are drinking the Kool-Aid. College is too expensive, it takes too long, and it's not relevant. And it's only relevant for 10%. If you're going to go to school, to college, you want to be a doctor, well, you have to go to college. But it's not going to take you 6 years. Okay, you won't be there. They'll flunk you. When I went to law school, supposed to, if you go at night, like I went at night, because I was married and had a couple kids, if you go at night, it's 4 years. If you don't go at night, you go full time, it's 3 years. If you don't finish, you don't graduate. So like if you get a C, that's okay. If you get below a C, you're on probation. If the next semester you don't bring it up, then you're out. If you come to class, they call on you as a seating chart. If you can't answer the question, check. If you get too unprepared, you're on probation. And then they drop you. You don't have, you know, at good schools, you don't have people that can just kind of go dip their toe in the water and spend money. So Nolan's thing is, I'm creating a new program called SNAP. And SNAP is going to be fast, fun, on point, and debt-free. And you have to live on campus because living on campus is a very important part, that culture, getting away from your home. Because what's the definition of insanity? Yeah, so if you live in the same house with your parents and your brothers and sisters, do you think you're going to change that much when you go to school for a few hours? How about if when you're 18, you go away to college on the other side of the country and you're around a bunch of other morons, 18-year-old kids, do you think you're going to change? You're going to change a lot. You change a lot. Why? No parental supervision. Who are your kind of adult role models? What are their jobs called? Professors, right? And these are people you learn social things and how to think from them. You don't go home at night and have to experience the same thing about your parents. And most of us have parents that are kind of stupid, not good. You know, that's just a fact of life. That's why good schools say we want you to come here. Leave your parents at home. Leave your high school friends at home. How do you think you would do at Stanford if you, at the end of school, you went home and you went back and watched TV with all of the guys you went to high school with? Would you make it through Stanford? You wouldn't make it through Stanford. Why? Because you'd be committing insanity. You'd be doing the same thing that you were doing before, but to make it through Stanford, you have to act different. And so at Larson, when we take our students and we get them to understand, you have to change your behavior. You can't just say, I want to change the results, but I want to still be me. Well, where did me get you? So how did I start in here at the very beginning when I was screwing around with this stuff? How did I start? What do we want to talk about? What's the thing that's holding you back or what's preventing you from remember that? Okay. That's sort of how we start at Larson, because we need people to understand if you don't change your behavior, the outcome isn't going to change. And because of how we are as people, it's kind of like, well, I like myself. That's why I am that's why I behave the way I do, because I kind of like myself. So I don't want to change who I am. I just want to change everybody else around me. I want to get a better job. I want to do this, but I don't want to change. So, but that isn't always a solution. If you're really talented, you can get away with being a different way. So one of the guys that worked for Nolan and Atari was Steve Jobs. Who's that?
Rich guy died.
Rich guy, a lot of rich guys die. Most rich guys are dead.
Apple, right?
Apple, okay, Steve Jobs, Apple Computer, right? So he used to work for Nolan at Atari. In fact, the first real job he had was at Atari. First real job in his career, not summer job, part-time job thing. First real job. And the people at Atari hated Steve Jobs. They wanted Nolan to fire him. And there's a movie a few years ago, you can see it on Netflix, Hulu, called Jobs. And Ashton Kutcher, do you know who that is? Okay, he's Steve Jobs in the movie. And they have the part where he was working at Atari. And before I saw the movie, Nolan had told me about this, what people thought about Steve Jobs at Atari and how they wanted to fire him. You know, there's a movement. We got to get rid of this guy.
Would you really like arrogant?
Well, one thing is he was very arrogant. He'd tell people they're stupid. What's wrong with you? You're a moron. You can't code. You can't do stuff. So your personality problems, you said what's holding you back. You said my personality. Okay, you don't have a bad personality. So it's probably you just are unconfident. And because you think you don't have a good personality, you're going to behave like what? You don't have a good personality, and you're going to use that as permission to not be successful. We'll come back to that later. So one thing about Steve Jobs was he was very arrogant, and it wasn't so much I'm great, it was pretty much you're stupid. You're an idiot. How could you be working here? You should be fired, type of thing, because he's very passionate about doing the best he could. The other thing was he ate fruit. So he didn't believe that he had body odor. So he didn't bathe.
And so that's probably why he had cancer. He ate fruit.
Huh?
Yeah, he hated fruit.
No, he ate fruit. He's a fruitarian. He's a fruitarian. He didn't think he did. So he didn't bathe. So the number one reason people at Apple wanted to get rid of him, Atari, was he smelled. And it was very uncomfortable. And I can tell you, we have, some students that are Catholic Charities, and they don't really get to bathe there. It's not like, okay, everybody get up, take a shower. It's not like in prison. It's, we have one guy that had bed bugs crawling around. And if what do you think, how would you feel if you're sitting behind somebody and the bed bug is crawling up his neck?
I feel like I'm going to have bed bugs now.
Yeah, exactly. So he had to leave the school because we have students that get to come from prison to go to school and they go back. And at the prison, it's not acceptable if somebody brings bed bugs into the prison. That's just no way. That cannot happen. Hmm? Well, but they don't do that in Catholic Charities. It's your problem. Okay. If you don't like it, don't live here. That's their attitude. And we're doing you a favor. Don't complain. It's not Catholic Charities, it's Catholic Industries. Anyway, so Steve Jobs had very bad people skills, and he had very bad personal hygiene, but he was really talented. And he made money for Atari. So Nolan came up with the solution, which is also in the movie, which was they said, okay, Steve, you can work here alone at night. So there's nobody to get upset, right? He's going to say you're stupid, too. He's just in the building alone. And nobody's there to complain about his smell. And that's what he did at Atari. So I don't want to say the talent doesn't overcome it. It's not a good strategy. That's like being way out here. That's called what in statistics? Outlier. Okay. So Steve Jobs is an outlier. I was with a guy yesterday that was at General Motors back in the 80s. And General Motors was on top. People didn't have a lot of Toyotas, but they were going down. And they commissioned this guy to do a study, which was how do we screw up? Except they didn't say screw up. It was, the other word. He said that was the title of this internal study of General Motors. And he was sent out to Silicon Valley to meet with really smart guys. And he met with Nolan, and he said that there are people that are A's and B's. It's not better than others. It's not like everybody should be an A. But Nolan and Steve Jobs and other Silicon Valley guys, they're A's. They're outliers on this thing. You can't include them when you're making statements about how you should act. They're not on the chart. So with Steve Jobs, his personal issues were very bad, that he wouldn't get hired except for the fact that his good things were so good that it overcame these things that made him unemployable. If any of us walked in for a job interview and we smelled, we're not getting the job. They're not going to ever get to talent. Okay, because they're going to believe if you were really talented, you wouldn't be in this office anyway. You know, talented people, Google goes looking for them. They don't go looking for Google, okay, unless they have some mitigating thing. I grew up in Michigan. I went to Michigan State. I don't know anything about California. We don't have a recruiting office on campus at Michigan. So that's why I'm here at Google applying for a job. Okay, but that's not the typical thing. If you walk into Google and you're applying for a job and you don't have a story like that, they're not hiring you. So when we're talking about these things, we're talking about the things I'm talking to you about regarding getting a job, you have to take the outliers out. You can't say, well, Steve Jobs told me he got a job. Okay, he's an outlier. Okay. So we go with stuff here and stuff really more over here and try to get into this area of things. But everything fits into a bell curve. So when you're in a job interview, you always want to be able to get them to ask you the question, why do you want to work here? Because if they ask you that question, now you made an impression on them. You're not the car they just went past, but they don't even remember what the car is. You're not just going through the motions of the interview. They haven't decided. So here's an important thing to know and write down. 555. And I'm going to write it this way. 555. 555. This is the most important thing about a job interview when you're in the interview. Okay, you don't get into the interview unless your resume is perfect, because they don't know you, right? I'm not talking about my dad's friend knows a guy that's hiring somebody. I'm talking about you're like the things you're doing where 400 people are competing for a job. The only way you're going to get the interview is if your resume is perfect. Okay? Which, unless you have somebody help you write the resume, it's probably not going to be perfect. Which is why they're thinking this isn't necessarily you. Because everybody has a perfect resume and nobody's perfect. So how did you come up with a perfect resume? That's the starting point. But for our purposes, the interview 555. This is the first 5 seconds. How important do you think that is? It's almost everything. So when you first saw me and I first saw you, we were both forming opinions of each other, right? What is this guy like? Is he stupid? Is it going to be fun? You know, I'm thinking, am I going to be bored? What's going to go on? What's going to happen with the little kid, etc. Right? This is what we do. We're genetically programmed to do that. That's how we survive as humans. We're very good at figuring things out. A lot of times we come to the wrong conclusion because we don't have good training. But the first 5 seconds. So a lot of it is body language. And what do we mostly think about in terms of body language?
That describes the person.
Whose body language are we usually focused on?
Person speaking.
The other guy. Who should we be focused on? Us. Because we're trying to convince them that we're believable. We only care about their body language to see if they think we're believable. Not like, huh, do I like this guy? Would I want to go have a beer with this guy? You know, I wonder what this guy's favorite sport is, who's his favorite team. You know, that's not important. The first 5 seconds when you go into that, before you walk in the door, it's like this. You proverbially, in your brain, you say, okay, I got to get ready. I've got 5 seconds to make a good first impression. And I need to be focused on that person to see how they're responding to me, because if I'm not making a good first impression, I got 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2, I've got to fix that. Because I have 5 seconds to make a good first impression. If I don't make a good first impression, now I've got to dig myself out. The next thing is the next 50 seconds. And that next 50 seconds, I have to set the stage that they like me, they feel comfortable, they're positively predisposed to me. So I am looking around their office, I'm looking at their clothes, I'm looking at some way to bond with them. What do most people do? How do most people feel when they walk in to an interview? Nervous, right? You're focused on what? I'm nervous. Well, they might ask me a question, right? We're thinking negative stuff. We're worried, we're panicked, we're not what? Well, maybe we're not prepared, but we're not confident, right? We wouldn't be confident because we're not prepared. So, do you think people can tell that? Do you think a guy who's in HR is taking a class in body language type stuff? Probably. So if you're not prepared and you don't go in with good body language, you're hurting who? Yourself. Hurting yourself. So in that first 50 seconds, you got to figure out some way to make a connection and bond with that person. You might see something in the room saying, oh, cool, I like UNLV too. Or if they have a picture of a dog or them fishing or I don't know, something. But again, it has to be sincere because ultimately everything comes back to being believable and truthful. And you never start a relationship out on a lie. So you have 50 seconds to create a strategy where you can bond with that person. Or fix what? Yeah, fix this. Okay, if you walk in and you're not sure, hi, how are you? My name's Ed. Have a seat. Ready? Now what? Now what do you do?
Listen for and ask questions.
Well, you could do that. You could do that. If you're looking around the room, you need to say something positive. Oh, wow, I really like this room. I used to sell jukeboxes to bars. When I sold jukeboxes to bar rooms, they didn't own jukeboxes. They had somebody put them in and they split the money 50-50. So the dominant paradigm was you have a bar, there's a jukebox in the bar. Somebody said, hey, Devin, let me put the jukebox, I'll go buy this jukebox for $5,000. I'll put it in here and we'll split the money 50-50. That's what everybody else did. I had to go in and say, hey, Devin, how about if you spend $5,000 and own your own jukebox? That's what I had to do. So I would walk in, and I'm doing this. I've got 5 seconds to make a good first impression because I was taught this. I've got 50 seconds to bond. So I would walk in, and I would do this. I always do this because what's the body language I'm saying if I'm doing this?
Curious or interested.
Yeah. Now I would say, cool place. How long have you had it? What am I now doing? Complimenting them, getting their defenses down, right? Starting to bond with them. What am I really doing? I'm finding out how long have they been there, because to qualify for the financing, they have had to have been in business 3 years. But what if I walked in and said, before we get started, how long have you been in business? Because if you haven't been in business for 3 years, then I don't have time. I can't help you. You're just wasting my time. Yeah, it'd be like, get the fuck out, right? And that's how they would be. But I didn't do that. I walked in. Wow, cool. How long have you been here? Interested, right? And it would be interesting, even if I said to myself, I would never come to a place like this. I would never come to a place like this. It's cool to me. It's interesting that people do. That's the interesting part. So I'm not lying. It is interesting. I'm not saying I would come here, right? But could it be interesting even though I wouldn't go there? Yeah, interesting from the perspective of why would anybody go here? I'm interested. So I wasn't deceiving them or telling them a lie or anything. It's just, you know, what they thought. So there's this thing called mental reservation. You ever heard that? Have you heard that term? Mental reservation? Have you heard it? Okay, so mental reservation is a very important thing to know that they teach you at Jesuit universities. And it means, and it's not a sin, it's not unethical, it means you just don't tell them everything. So somebody says, so here's an example of mental reservation. What color is the sky? You can look outside.
It's probably blue or something.
Okay. So mental reservation would be if I said it's black. You look out the window and say, what color does that sky look like? What color is the sky? Say black. Huh? No, it's black. Huh? How could it be true that when I said it's black, how could that be true?
Some poetic sense.
No, in a literal sense.
It's raining?
No. If I said right now, I said, if you said to me, what color is the sky?
It's night.
Yeah, I'd say, well, what do you mean it's black? I'd say, well, I was thinking about in Europe. You know, Bushnell's in Italy right now. The sky is black in Italy. You didn't say, what color is that sky right there? So mental reservation is, you just don't say everything. So when I say, interesting place, how long have you been here? I'm not saying I want to be a customer, right? That's a different thing. I'm not saying I'm going to come here tonight and bring in my girlfriend. That's a totally different thing. So there's a difference between mental reservation and starting a relationship on the line. I just want to get that quick because I don't want to be accused. And this is being videotaped, so I got to make sure I have my distance. 5 seconds, 50 seconds. What's the last one? 5 what?
Good impression for us.
5 what? 5 seconds, 50 seconds. What's this? We already have 5 seconds. This is, you're going into an interview. There's the first, okay, good, 5 minutes. At this point, within the first 5 minutes, the decision has probably already been made. You might still be in there for another 20 minutes. Doesn't mean they didn't decide. They could be being polite, right? They could say, well, my next interview isn't until whatever. And if I send Devin out of here now I got to find something else to do. I'll just stretch it out. Or Devin is kind of the sneaky, tricky guy. I don't want him to go to somebody else in this company saying, I only got 5 minutes. So I'm going to give him the whole time. But I've already decided I'm not hiring you. Most people come to the conclusion, if you were interviewed for 30 minutes, that they liked you. Can't confuse somebody being polite with liking you, right? Have you ever been polite to someone you didn't like?
Yes.
Yeah. We do that all the time, that's right. So, but most people that go into interviews, they walk out thinking, judging whether they were liked as to the probability of getting the job. Totally unrelated. Totally unrelated. It's what you say in here, and it's really what you say in the first 5 minutes. If you can go on YouTube and you can look for interviews where they have first 5 minutes, they have these tests where they just have people in an interview for 5 minutes, and they went around to people and say, did this person get hired? Did this person? Who do you think got hired? And you can really tell, even if they have the same skills, same credentials, whatever, how they acted in the first 5 minutes, whether they were believable, had to do with it. Okay, so we have about 20 minutes left. So what I want to talk about is what you do need to do to get a job. Now, really what you should do is you should go to SNAP. Golden Bushmills Company. So let me so I'll give you these. But I'll also send you an email. This is the best thing to do because as college is not relevant, takes too long, too expensive, not really relevant, this is the opposite. This is fast, fun, on point, and no debt. 9 months. That's what SNAP is. And if you say, I'm going to take a year off, I don't really know what I want to do, at SNAP, and then after 9 months at SNAP, and you say, okay, now I'm ready to go to college, and you show up at college and you're going to take a business class, or you want to work in a doctor's office, but you don't want to be a doctor, but you want to be an administrator or something, or you want to have a clinic and you own the clinic and you have doctors working for you or healthcare providers working for you. You show up at school to take business classes and you already have an accounting certificate from QuickBooks. Nobody else does. You already have taken a class in business law, so you know how to write contracts, you know about property. You've already had HR, so you know about hiring, firing, and building teams.
Did you write the curriculum?
Well, Nolan wrote the curriculum. I, because of where I teach, was able to put it into a thing that people can do it. But it's, so I'll finish with those. So accounting, business law, HR, media. So media is learning how to do things on YouTube, use equipment, Photoshop, things like that. Learning how to use technology. Funding, media, marketing, technology, and the future. Those are the 8 subjects that people spend 9 months. And the way class works is the fundamental premise is if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to act like an entrepreneur. You don't act like a student. You don't act like an employee. You act like an entrepreneur. So, and entrepreneurs work in teams. They work with people because you can't really do things on your own. So you're in groups of 3 people, and the week will start with a interview or a video of Nolan saying, okay, here's the assignment for this week. We're going to go to the trade show, the tea trade show. There's a trade show for tea at the convention center. Everybody's going to get passes. You're going to go to the trade show, and you're going to observe some companies. We need you to come back with this information, and then you're going to write a contract to buy product from the tea company. Except half of you are going to be working for the tea company, and you're going to negotiate the contract with the people on the team on the other side. And we'll let you know which team you're on. And then you break up and you work in your teams, and you go to the show. You have to learn to write a contract. You go to the internet and you learn how to do this stuff. And you're working in teams, you're working on your own, you have a full-time, a 30-hour-a-week job, and then you, at the end of the week, come back and there's a hangout on air, which is what this is. So it's a live broadcast, 2-way. Nolan is on one end, wherever he happens to be. Right now he's in Italy. You have a thing, we go over what it was. And that's kind of how they do it at Harvard. It's called the case method. Go back, you learn a case, and that's how they do it in most law schools. Where I went to law school, that's how they do it too. So that is the SNAP curriculum, and you do it 20 hours a week in class, 20 hours a week on your own, and 30 hours a week you're working a job, you're getting paid 30 hours a week, you come back, you live in a dorm, and it's very cool. It's going to be very cool. The first class starts here in June, and it's every month. So how to get a job, that's the best way, is to go to SNAP. Because you're going to have a guy who's changed the world twice mentoring you on what you need to do. So if you can't do it, let somebody else do it. But for our purposes, we're going to go through, because we talked about what not to do. Now we're going to talk about what to do to get employed. And the number one thing is you have to stop saying negative things to yourself. So you can't say, that was a little trick question to me, okay? You can't say negative things like what?
That person.
Yeah, bad people skills, okay? You can't say things like that because what are you doing in your brain? Okay, so we didn't have time to talk about the brain. We don't have time to talk right now. But there are these things in your brain called neurons. Ever hear of them? Ever hear of them? Okay, so we have about 80 billion neurons in our brain. We have more neurons than any other life form on the planet, by far. And it turns out that because we have so many neurons, we live in a dual existence. Animals only live in a objective reality. Objective reality. All animals live in a world that is objective reality. What does that mean? Objective reality is a tree is a tree, a river is a river, food is food, dirt is dirt, rain is rain. It's objective. You can say to the, you hold a banana up in front of a chimpanzee, and if it could talk, you say, "What's this?" It says it's a chimpanzee. It's a banana. Okay, it's objective reality. It's not subjective. Okay? It's objective. Things are what they are. But because we have so many neurons, we are also able to live in a world that has a subjective reality, where we give meaning to things. So let's say we're all chimpanzees, right? And I say, okay, Leah, you have a banana. I want a banana. I'm going to give you this green piece of paper. Would you give me the banana? Why? Okay. Because what can you do with the little green piece of paper? If you're a chimpanzee, let's say it's a dollar bill. Okay, you're a chimpanzee. What, can you eat it? Not really. Can you wear it? Does it have any value to you as a chimpanzee? Does the banana? What value does the banana have? Food. Okay. So if we're both chimpanzees and I say, here's a little green piece of, here's $1. Can I have the banana? Okay. What if I say to you, okay, you have a banana, but if you give me that banana, when you die, you're going to go to heaven. Will the chimpanzee believe that? No. They can't believe it because they don't have enough neurons to have subjective reality. A banana is just a banana. We have so many neurons, we live in a subjective reality. And the problem we have is most people start putting meaning on things that are not really true. So if I flip a coin, a quarter, 10 times in a regular quarter, 10 times and it lands heads, 10 times in a row, what's the 11th one going to be? Well, what do you think it's going to be?
Heads.
Okay, why do you say heads?
Because it's last 10 times.
Okay, why did you say heads? Okay, what's the real answer? Yeah, the quarter doesn't know that it was heads 10 times in a row. The probability of it coming up heads 10 times in a row is what? No, heads 10 times in a row. 2 to the 10th power. Okay? Or coming up heads, it can either be heads or tails. So there's two choices. 1 time is 2, half. It's 50-50. But, or it's, in that case, 1 out of 2. So this would be 1 out of 2 to the 10th power. There is a probability. Is it big or small? The probability is very small that you're going to flip a quarter 10 times and it come up heads 10 times in a row. But it's a real number. So what we do, because we live in subjective reality, we will add on things and say, well, it's been heads 10 times in a row, so it's going to be heads, or half of the people will say it's going to be tails because it's time for tails to come up. But for the quarter, every flip is 50-50. The last 10 flips don't have any impact on the next flip. But as Americans, or as people, we apply subjective reality, and we put things on that are not accurate, and we make decisions based upon inaccurate facts. Like, I'm going to bet it's heads because it's been heads 10 times. I'm going to bet it's tails because it's been heads 10 times. Okay? So we have a lot of neurons, and we believe in subjective reality. Our brain is just going to do what we tell it to do. So when we say negative things about ourselves, I can't do this because of that, what we're doing is we're programming our brain to fail. And we're saying it's okay. It's not my fault because I have bad people skills. So you're giving yourself permission to do what? Have bad people skills. And the result is going to be what? Failing. Okay, because your brain just tells it what to do. Does what you tell it to do. Your brain just does what you tell it to do. So if you run around saying negative things about yourself, your brain is going to, well, I know I'm going to screw this up somehow. Okay, so the number one thing to do to get successfully employed is you have to stop negative. Because when you do that, your brain is going to do what you tell it to do. It's not the other way around. Your brain does what you tell it to do. So you can watch any personal coach, public speaking type person, Tony Robbins, these guys. It's all about you have to be positive. Because otherwise you're programming your brain for failure. So whenever you catch yourself saying something bad, stop, I can't say that. And I might have to use the word yet. I'm not stupid, I just haven't learned that yet. I'm not bad at tennis, I just haven't gotten good at it yet. That's how you have to flip that around. So that's the number one thing. Because if you keep doing this, if you keep negative thoughts, that's a form of insanity. Which means what? See about this memory thing I talked about in the beginning?
What are the exact words?
Well, paraphrase.
Putting yourself in a position to do the same thing over and over.
Okay, what is it, Devin? What is insanity?
You keep repeating the same thing over and over.
Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. That's insanity. So it's insanity to say negative things about yourself and expect something else. But you know what? Nobody ever told us that. So we don't know that. So we don't know there's a connection between that. And nobody ever told us we have 80 billion neurons that just do what we tell them to do. You know how many cells in your body? About 100 trillion. How many of them do you think know who you are? Huh?
Not one.
0. How many of them care who you are? No, they don't care. Your cells don't care who you are. They don't know who you are. You just have a structure in your brain that you have these beliefs and things because we live in a subjective reality world. And if you believe these things are true, then your brain and your body are going to behave as if they're true. Okay, but we don't learn that in school. And mainly we don't learn it because this stuff wasn't known because we didn't have tools that were good enough to figure it out. So like the number one tool to figure this stuff out now is called an fMRI. What's that?
Is that brain scan?
Yeah, a functional MRI machine. And what does it do?
Scans your brain for activity.
How?
It shows where the white matter.
Okay, so what it is basically a huge magnet.
Right.
Now what is inside of our blood?
I'm not sure.
Iron. Okay, what is magnet? and iron have to do with blood level?
Magnets are iron, or iron is magnet.
Yeah,
Magnetic.
so they have this really sophisticated machine that's basically a magnet, and it can see blood flow in your brain. And so when somebody says to you, this wine, you have a tube going in your mouth, you're in an MRI machine, you're reading this little thing about this wine, and you're sipping the wine, and it's a really nice looking bottle, and it says, this wine is really great wine, it won all of these awards, and it's from this beautiful part of the country, and you're flipping through it, and you see that, and you look at your MRI, it's going to light up a certain way. They give you a different one, it's in a really cheap bottle, and it says, this is from Walmart, and it was grown in this place here, and then they show you a picture of it, and it's like this desert, not, there's not trees and rolling hills, it's just like a factory vineyard. What do you think your brain scan is going to look like for those two different wines? Different. The MRI is going to show up differently. But you know what? When they do this test, they use the same wine and they just put it in different bottles, and they tell somebody it's different, but it's not really different. In an objective reality world, it's the same wine. But because they get you to believe certain things about the wine, they can see the blood flow in your brain going to different parts of your brain. So these beliefs that we have had in the past, we didn't have the tools to know that they were not true. Okay, so that's why we didn't learn this stuff in school. But what we did learn is not true, because there's new technology, and the stuff that's coming in the future is going to make this stuff look like us saying to a caveman, why is there lightning? What's a caveman say? Why is there lightning? Correct. Some powerful force that's causing it might be because we didn't do something, right? So we're going to pray for rain, and if it rains, what are we going to do?
Celebrate.
We're going to pray more, right? Because we're going to believe praying causes rain. Does anybody believe that today? No. Not really. People try to believe it, but nobody really believes it. Okay, so here's what you have to do to get a job. And this is very important for you, Leah. We have 3 minutes. I'm just going to write them down. 1, you figure out what you want to do. You figure it out, or as Nolan says, I can't tell the difference between work and having fun. And what is it that you would do if you didn't get paid? What would you do if money wasn't a problem? You didn't need money to pay bills. If money wasn't a problem, you weren't going to get paid. What would you do? How would you choose to spend your time during the day? So that's the first thing you do. What would I do if I didn't have to do it for money? What's a hobby I have? What would I do that I can't tell the difference between work and pleasure? I could do this all day long because I love doing it. Watching TV, whatever it is. What would I do? That's the first thing you need to find out. The second thing you need to do is find 3 to 5 companies that do that. How do you find 3 to 5 companies that do that? Yeah, not hard. Take you about 5 minutes, maybe 30 minutes tops. You find 3 to 5 companies. Third thing, what? You do your research. How do you do that? Google. What else? Where does that mean? Their website. Other just internet search. YouTube. Facebook, etc. You research them. To how much do you research them?
So you know what you do?
No. You research them to the point where you believe you know that company better than the guy who's going to interview you. If you go to McDonald's website, do you think there's a section called About Us? Okay. If you go to the Five Guys website, do you think there's a section called About Us? Do you think if you read those two things that they say the same thing? Not really. Not, well, I mean, yeah, they say the same thing in terms of we sell food. But do you think McDonald's sees themselves the same as Five Guys? No. So when you send a resume out to hospitals or healthcare providers, why would you send the same resume to two different companies? That's like saying to McDonald's, you and Five Guys are the same thing. No, you don't do that. Comes back to why it's 3 to 5 companies, because you have a different resume. Because when you're writing your resume for these companies, you're taking words of how they see themselves and putting them in a resume. So if one of them says, we're interested in clever, creative people, guess what's in your resume? Yeah, if the other one says, we're interested in hardworking people, what don't you put? Creative and clever. Because they said, we're looking for hardworking people. Okay? We don't know this, right? Because that's why we don't do this, is because we were taught what you believe. If I send out enough resumes, eventually somebody's going to bite. Right? Okay, that's okay. Now we're talking about changing your behavior. So what's the next thing? So we do research. So we know them better than the guy interviewing us. Now you notice I didn't say better than the guy who started the company, and I didn't say better than the other people interviewing. I want to know this company better than the guy interviewing me. Why? Because when I'm in my interview and they say, why do you want to work here? I say, because this is a business I really want to work in. I'm going to be in this industry. And I've researched whatever the number is, 3, or, I'm applying. I've narrowed it down. I'm going to work at one of 3 companies. You hope they say, well, who are the other 2? I'm looking at one of the other 3 companies. And I like you because this is what I learned about your company. And it's hopefully something that they don't know, or maybe they did know. Because how are they going to feel if you know a story about that company that most people don't know? You really do want to work here. Nobody else that I'm interviewing has done this, unless they went to Larson. Okay, so you research them. Then what? You have a plan. The plan might be to wait till they say we're hiring, but that's not really a good plan. A good plan is to go to them before, right? Because what happens if you're a fisherman and you wait for all the other boats to go around because somebody said the fish are here? Is that better, or is it better to be the only guy where the fish are? You want to be the only guy. All good companies are looking for good people. So your strategy might be, I want to work at this company because I want to be helping the doctor do whatever. But you might find out, because you did your research, that they're looking for somebody in the mailroom. Part of your plan could be to say, you know what, I just want to get in there. Because if I get in that company and I make a good impression, what might they do? No, hire you for what they need, but promote you later. Would you rather be somebody that didn't work there, that had skills, or somebody who already had a job in that company? Yeah, because they can go to your supervisor and say, what's Leah like? Oh, she's a good hard worker, she's creative, she's dependable, she's whatever. Well, she's interviewing in my department. Damn, I don't want to lose her. Versus the HR guy says, well, does anybody, I don't, here's her thing, she looks good on paper, I don't really know. You have a better job of getting promoted. And again, because of this, and because you did this, you're not looking for a bad company. These are good companies. So you don't have to worry you're going to get in a low-level position in a good company, because they're always looking to bring people up from the bottom that know the company. And then the 5th step is you execute the plan. That's all you need to know. That's how the system works. Figure out what it is that you really, really, really want to do. Find 3 to 5 companies that do that. Why 3 to 5? Yeah, and then you go get a job. So the last thing is then you just get a job to pay the bills. What do most actors do before they get their break?
Small-time jobs,
Like what?
commercial.
Waiters. They work in restaurants.
Oh,
Okay, why? It's easy to get a job, good, they have good personalities, but they like doing it because they can practice. Today I'm going to be an Englishman. Tomorrow I'm going to be this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to practice being an actor. And if I go to a cocktail party and somebody says, what do you do? What don't I say?
acting.
No, I don't say. What don't I say?
No, I'm a waiter at Trader Joe's.
Yeah, I say I'm an actor. Because that's what I really am. I just am working in the restaurant to do what? No, to pay my bills.
Wait, to eventually act.
I'm an actor. I'm waiting for my break. I got to pay the bills. If you do this plan, it might take you 90 days to get a job, to get one of these. In the meantime, you go get a job to pay the bills. You don't get picky. You say things like, I need to find a place as close to where I live as possible because I don't want to waste time and money driving there. I want to find a thing I know. You've done telemarketing, right? Could you do telemarketing until you're waiting for this thing to open up and have a good attitude? It's hard to do telemarketing if you think that's the end of the road. That's why they have a lot of turnover. Could you work at Jack in the Box at the front counter if you were just waiting for one of these companies to call you? Absolutely. What if you thought that's what you're going to end up doing for your life? How would you feel? No, you feel like you're a loser. If this was the end, if you thought, the only place that'll hire me is McDonald's. Where's the gun? Okay. But if it's, I'm only working at McDonald's till this thing comes in. When I went to law school, very common for guys to work in bars at night. Why? Easy money. You don't have to learn the job. You don't really have to think about the job. You can quit. There's no high expectations. And guess what? If you're just doing it for the money, you don't have the subjective reality. People are going to think I'm a loser if I work in a bar. I went to undergraduate school. I went to a good school. Now I'm working in a bar. That's pretty dismal, right? Unless I say, if I'm in law school, I'm only working at the bar to pay my bills. I had a jukebox company, and I would be, I told you about, when I was in law school, I would be out collecting money. I could have applied a subjective reality saying, boy, these people must think I'm a loser, going and emptying quarters out of these machines all day. But did I think of myself that way? No. I thought of myself as, hey, boy, this is a really easy way to pay for law school. I don't have to deal with people. I just drive around, pick up money. Kind of cool. Would I want to do it for my career? No. Can't make a lot of money doing that. So that is how you go, what you need to do to get a job. Hopefully you'll be here next Thursday, and we will